This is the Chris DeGaulle Show podcast.
Okay, guys, let's just rip. And Chris DeGaulle.
Chris DeGaulle. Chris, thanks for being with me tonight.
Chris DeGaulle.
I'm joined now by Chris DeGaulle.
Now, he puts the broad in broadband. It's Chris DeGaulle.
The Chris DeGaulle podcast is presented by usmedicalplan.com. Save big money monthly and get better health coverage at usmedicalplan.com.
All right, here we go. It is, I hope you're buckled in, ladies and gentlemen. It is the 25th day of May. It is a Thursday. I welcome you into the Chris DeGaulle Show podcast, Ron versus Don Day. Yeah, Ron DeSantis making it official yesterday. I have all the analysis, and I'm as honest with you in today's show as I can possibly be. My assessment of these two campaigns. Most people believe it's sort of a fait accompli. It's really between these two guys. Trump people will tell you it's not even between these two. It's Trump and everybody else. They don't care about DeSantis. You DeSantis voters, I know, are excited and enthusiastic about him. You like what you heard last night despite some missteps. And I've heard from you too, and so many of you in this audience who say, oh, it's time for an adult. It's time for a new way forward. Trump people say, nope, it's Trump or nothing. I'm a ride or die with Trump. Believe you me, as I lamented yesterday, this is going to be a tough thing to negotiate, but I'm going to try again today and talk to you honestly and give you some analysis. Liz Ferry joins us. Liz is part of Team Trump. Now, Hogan Gidley, who was part of the official White House communications staff, has not chosen a side here, but is a really brilliant communicator. And a lot of today's show is going to focus on political communications. And so that's what I hope you'll take from this. Sincere analysis about how these campaigns talk to Republicans and ultimately end up trying to woo Republicans to their side if you're not already firmly entrenched one way or the other. I don't know how many in this audience can be moved one way or the other. The thing I think most of us share in common, most of this audience wants to beat Joe Biden, I hope. And I'm sure there are some of you that are Democrats, but most of you would like to see Joe Biden defeated, and you would like to see a course correction of seismic proportions in this country. And if that means it's Ron DeSantis or that means it's Donald Trump, I hope most of this audience will vote for either man or whomever the Republican candidate is over the Democrat. That's ultimately the hope here, but trying to be fair about it, and we will dive into it coming up. Thanks for the 5-star reviews. Spotify now has a what'd you think of this show reaction question that they ask about each podcast. I just found out about that yesterday. Literally didn't know that's a thing. But if you're a Spotify user and you want to leave comments about the shows there, awesome. The 5-star reviews at Apple Podcasts are so helpful. Thank you for that. And I hope you're subscribing to this podcast so you never miss an episode. I also hope that you've put in 2 minutes of your time if you buy your own health insurance. Do you buy your own health insurance? Are you spending a fortune? Odds are you are, unless you've called John Ruhlman at usmedicalplan.com or 877-410-4321. 877-410-4321. That's the phone number. The website, usmedicalplan.com. You want to get connected with somebody on John's team today and just tell them, here's what I pay a month to cover my employees at my small business, or here's what I pay a month to cover myself, or I'm a senior on a fixed income, and here's what I pay a month for my supplemental plan for Medicare. Or I'm a family of 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. I buy my own health insurance because I'm a small business person. Is there a better, cheaper way? Odds are, most of the time, John or his team, they're going to say to you, yeah, like a 30 to 60% cheaper way. They have a huge network of private health insurers that will get you as good or in most cases, much better coverage and at a much less cost a month on that premium. I mean, hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars a month. It is so worth this phone call. You know, if you don't get your health insurance through your employer, and even then, it may be that you're paying way too much a month out of your paycheck, John might be able to get you something cheaper. And the younger you are, the healthier you are, the even better you are. I mean, there are health insurance plans out there that'll pay you if, God forbid, you ever need to be hospitalized. Seriously, let him talk to you about it. 877-410-4321 or usmedicalplan.com. Choose your pundit. Choose your talking head's reaction as to how you'd like to frame last night. The Ron DeSantis launch. I don't think that discussions of Twitter technical flubs are particularly relevant or meaningful to me. I don't know about you. I do question the venue. Not that I'm not 100% squarely in favor and fully behind Elon and what he's trying to do and what Tucker's trying to do with Elon. And I know Ben Shapiro and his group have taken their products to Elon. I think it's great. In fact, I got a story here in front of me today that says Musk is basically trying to do an end around and go to war with Rupert Murdoch and Fox. I am all for that, and I absolutely think it's the best thing for us all going forward. I am firmly behind it. Ron DeSantis partnering with Elon Musk to try to make an announcement yesterday, which, by the way, came a lot earlier than I guess I thought. I had been monitoring all day yesterday, and they said DeSantis' big announcement was going to happen at 8 p.m. Eastern. And I got busy doing other things, and if I could be completely honest with you, a friend texted me and he said, well, it was really glitchy to get started, but I thought when he finally rebounded and started talking, he stuck the landing well and was great on policy. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? He said, the announcement, the big announcement. I said, it's just 6 o'clock. Yeah, it's over. Did I miss something? Or were people not saying that announcement was coming at 8 o'clock Eastern all day yesterday? Am I making that up?
I thought it was 6.
You did? Okay. I must have just misread it or something. So I'm going to be honest with you, folks. I'm not sure I would have gotten on Twitter to listen to it anyway, but I missed it. What was it, about 7 minutes all told?
I guess I couldn't. I kept getting booted off. And then when they finally got started, it was like a false start. So to be perfectly honest, Chris, I hung in for about a half hour, and then I had to cook dinner. Like I couldn't.
All right, now listen. Here's the thing. It was the Trump people immediately. And by the way, the Team Trump wants to come on the show today and talk about it, and so we're going to do it. And that's again that I want you to know that the DeSantis team will be invited. In fact, I intend to be with some members of Team DeSantis in about a week, and I am going to it's a mutual event. It has nothing to do with DeSantis personally. It's just personal friends I know that are involved with the camp, and I am going to, Eddie and I have talked about this. I said, I am going to let them know personally that there's an open invitation for Governor DeSantis to appear here, and I hope that he will. We're eager to talk with him, and we welcome him here, and I'm excited that will happen. Team Trump, immediately they had reaction to this, and I have to confess, I'm getting a little tired of people forgetting or misremembering, or I don't know what you want to call it, but these heart palpitations and the fainting couch routine about how mean Trump supporters are, or how mean Trump is specifically. And how out of line and outrageous Trump is for teasing DeSantis. Again, I say, what universe are you living in where this is new to you? I don't know. So he goes online with Elon Musk and he tries to launch this thing, and I credit the novel approach and all that stuff. It didn't work well. And so a bunch of Democrats and, of course, Team Trump are going to pile on and mock him for a botched 7 minutes that they're trying to do a new thing on Twitter. Do you expect less? I mean, seriously, let's all grow up for a second and just be honest. Everybody's trying to win. So Ron DeSantis has probably some of the biggest mojo and juice in politics today. He seems unstoppable. He seems like he can't make a mistake. He never makes mistakes. And so he has this big announcement and this big launch with the Elon Musk. And it's, a half an hour of burping and belching and coughing and hacking, and people can't get on, and people getting frustrated and can't. I mean, do you really expect that Donald Trump is just going to leave that alone and be what do you expect him to send out a message on Truth Social and go, well, Ron, you tried. Darn it, sorry for the technical glitches, but it was a noble effort, and I welcome you to the race. Did you really think that that's how Trump was going to react, Fast Eddie?
Hell no. Absolutely not.
This ain't beanbag, folks. Politics ain't beanbag. I don't know what you expect Trump and everybody else. By the way, the Democrats, there's a story I have here in front of me today that Biden and Trump were united on one front yesterday for a brief moment, and that was mocking Ron DeSantis. Now, listen, I want to be clear. I don't think this means anything to any real voter. I don't actually think Twitter matters to normal people. I don't. I think it's an absolutely silly, if you want to, I hate to even call it a misstep. It's not Ron DeSantis' fault. I mean, it's Elon Musk's fault. If this makes anyone look bad, to me, it makes Elon Musk look bad. It makes Twitter look bad. I don't look at it as DeSantis looking bad, personally. And apparently, once it got going, from what I understand, DeSantis did what DeSantis does very well. He had a full grasp of policy. Do we have any audio of this once it finally got rolling, or no?
I have some audio from it, yeah.
All right, let's listen to some of it, because I literally didn't hear it, and I'm not saying that to be disrespectful. I thought it was happening at 8. I don't know where I got 8. Or maybe that, you know what I think it was? Here's what I think it was, because I also didn't watch this. Was that his interview with Trey Gowdy Fox was promoting at 8 yesterday?
Yeah, he went on the Spaces, and then his interview with Trey Gowdy was like the first thing after that. So
right,
yeah,
now,
8 o'clock.
May I, here will be my gentle criticism of the Ron DeSantis campaign. Twitter does not, I don't care. I really don't care. Most people are not on Twitter. Most people still are not on Twitter. Twitter is not real life. It is still not where most voters are. Yes, I'm on it. I've been on it for, 14 years or something. Most media people are on it. A lot of you are on it. Most people aren't on Twitter still. So I don't care about it. I would quibble with Team DeSantis on the decision to make his first television appearance post-launch with Trey Gowdy on Fox News. That would be my quibble. Because if, again, assuming you're trying to court or woo or win away people who have a mistrust of the swamp, I think Trey Gowdy and in the old Tucker Carlson slot on Fox News is not where you appear first. Get what I mean?
I agree 110%.
I think that was a far bigger error and problem than the thing with Elon and whatever. So anyway, here's some of the stuff with Twitter, and it was on Twitter Spaces last night. And by the way, for those of you who aren't on Twitter and don't know Twitter Spaces, think of it as basically a big audio chat room. And as I understand it, there's like a host. The way this works, basically, if you don't know about it, is I could go on and host a Twitter Spaces. Eddie could then join me in Twitter Spaces as another Twitter user, and he and I could have a dialogue, and everybody who wanted to could log in and listen in, and then notify me as the host when they want to speak. And then I, as the host, have the ability to select you if you've notified us that you have a question. I can pop you in, and then you can talk with Eddie and me, and then I disconnect you. The idea is that all these people will you're basically listening in on and really, in many ways, it's very old school. I mean, it's like a teletown hall. They did it, in the pre-digital age. This is something politicians used to do. They'd go into a conference room, and they'd have a list of thousands of voters in their district or whatever, and you could dial into a number if you wanted to, and you could listen to the politician talking on a conference call. And then you could, through your keypad, message that you wanted to ask the politician a question. And it's a teletown hall. It's the digital version of it. So this is actually, it's funny in a lot of ways for all this kind of talk of it being this new revolutionary thing. It's actually very retro. And there's no video. There is no video. This is strictly audio. And so the problem with it is, because of that, you get a couple, 3 voices on there, and everybody's trying to figure out who's who, and there's a lot of people, and kind of confusion. Elon's coming in from one place. There's probably some tech guy running it. There's DeSantis there. You got millions of people, undoubtedly, that are interested trying to tune in. I think the servers crash because the interest is so high. And then you've got people, if people don't have their mics muted or you bring people in that you don't intend to, guys coughing, guys coughing in their microphones, it can just dominate the whole. So it's a lot of chaos and noise. Of course, that's what Trump picked up on, and I'll get into that in a minute. But anyway, once it got rolling and got into the substance of it, here's some of it from last night.
The thing is that this administration, they seem to want to ban Bitcoin, but they want to create a CBDC, which stands for a central bank digital currency. What's your take on that?
So we were the first state just last month. We actually got the Florida legislature to pass a law that says Florida does not recognize central bank digital currency, because some states were actually adding that to their uniform commercial code. The federal government's studying this. We did the opposite and say we didn't. Now, the reason why we did that is because what the Federal Reserve has said is, we're going to consult with Congress. We'll consult with the executive branch. We don't have a CBDC right now. And ideally, we would get authorization for Congress. Well, wait a minute. It's not ideally. You must get authorization from Congress. I don't think Congress would authorize it. So if they unilaterally try to do this, we're trying to provide protection for people here in Florida. I know Biden did the executive order. They're studying it. I can tell you, if I'm president, we are not doing a central bank digital currency. I think that would be a huge, huge imposition on people's financial freedoms and financial privacy. And oh, by the way, what would the logical result of this be? If the central authority has oversight over this, of course they're going to start imposing ESG criteria. Oh, wait a minute. You filled up your gas tank 3 times this week. You can't do any more. The sky of how they would be able to manipulate this.
So I get it. And just listening to that, now I get some. This is very interesting. I'm hearing this, to be very honest with you, for the first time. And now I'm hearing some, I will say, gentle criticism of DeSantis here, beyond the technical stuff. The technical stuff is not interesting to me, I say again. Laura Ingraham and Newt Gingrich had a very interesting conversation last night. And because I didn't hear this, I only heard this morning, I now understand what it means. I understood exactly what Ron DeSantis was just saying there. Fast Eddie, I have read more people talking about how brilliant, how smart Ron DeSantis is after this than I have in a long time. I mean, I think everybody knew he was smart and capable and accomplished, but one of the things that I'm hearing last night in review is that guy knows policy. He is brilliant. He is smart. He can talk for 45. I'm hearing a lot of pundits say that guy can riff. He can talk for an hour straight on policy. Brilliant. Right? You reading that? You seeing that? It's true.
Yes.
It's true. Yeah. Why is that a problem?
Well, especially in just an audio forum, there's a lot of words. It's not boiled down to what it needs to be for everyone to understand.
So I kept hearing this. DeSantis can run circles around Trump discussing policy. It's true. It's absolutely true. Having said all that, Newt and Laura discussed this very thing last night, and I thought it was a really, and I think Newt is probably a Trumper, I think. Let's start with the first one. Well, you know what? Actually, no. I think we can do this out of order. Let's take the second one, because I happened to see this last night, and because I didn't hear it, I didn't understand the context. Now that I've heard it, I do. You want to talk about a brilliant policy guy. Newt's about as brilliant as they come. Newt's also run for office. Newt's run for president. So Newt understands this game well. Probably leans Trump. Don't know that that's true, but I gather he does. So he and Laura are talking about this launch and the fact that DeSantis, I think very specifically they played a clip, and I don't know if that clip is featured in this, where DeSantis last night was talking about corporate interests in corporate America and banks controlling policy. Is that clip in this?
Yep, I have the Ron lead into that.
All right, then let's pick it up there, that second clip with Newt last night.
We will not be a free society if major financial institutions can do through the economy what people could not achieve through the ballot box. Our rights will be restricted, will be the end result, and that's not healthy.
Can you stop that for a
country.
second? So that's the clip of DeSantis making a perfectly logical, understandable case to me. We cannot be a free society if major institutions financially can do through the economy what people could not achieve through the ballot box. Our rights will be restricted as the end result. That's not healthy for a free country. Would Trump ever say something like that? If you're just comparing the two men here, because ostensibly that's what we're talking about, is a head-to-head matchup between those two. Does Trump talk like that?
No.
Could Trump talk like that? No. Trump doesn't have a mastery of that kind of verbosity. That's not the way Trump does it. Now, what's he saying? Ron DeSantis is saying something extraordinarily important there. And he's 100% right. In a free society, major banks should not be able to do through the economy what people can achieve at the ballot box. How many times have we talked about this? Corporate America and banks are forcing you and me to do things that Democrats can't get done by making the case to the American people. Right? We've talked about this a lot. That's what DeSantis, that's all he was saying. I understood it. But I think Laura and Newt picked up on something there. Do people, not you and me, this is not for you, folks, this is not for your consumption and it's not for mine. You're smart. I'm reasonably smart. We're reasonably smart people who know issues. We're up on this. We read. We're paying attention. The question is, do people who don't pay attention understand what he just said? So with that, we go back to last night.
Country.
Now, Newt, and it's a good point, but can people grab onto that and kind of understand, a la the contract with America, what is he getting at there? I mean, you and I know, but can the folks around the dinner table understand that who are not into politics?
This may seem like an odd comment, but I think that he's very, very smart. He clearly did very well at Yale. He is clearly capable of thinking about big ideas. But, Ronald Reagan was probably equally smart, but he also understood that he had to communicate so that everyday folks understood it. One of Trump's great advantages is he talks at a level where third, fourth, and fifth grade educations can say, oh, yeah, I get that. I understand it. And in fact, Trump has now made the Republican Party the party of working Americans in a way that probably hasn't been true for almost 100 years. So the challenge for DeSantis is take that interesting sentence and figure out how do you boil it down to a slogan and to a specific thing. I think it's fair to say, and I know this from the polling data we do at the America's New Majority Project, the American people fear big business as much as they fear big government. They think both of them are dangerous. And I think a candidate who ran to take both of them on would have an advantage. But I also agree strongly with you. Much deeper than that issue is the question of what are you going to do about the economy? And frankly, here, Speaker Kevin McCarthy and the House Republicans have begun to move the Republicans, I think, into a very interesting opportunity. They will have in the next few weeks a 10-year plan to get to a balanced budget with lower taxes, greater economic growth, less inflation. That's the sort of thing that DeSantis ought to be campaigning on.
And talking about it in every state across the nation. I think you get a lot of people say, I want $2.30.
So there, you get it. He's very smart. He did well at Yale. But Trump's great advantage, Newt says, he can speak to a third, fourth, fifth grade education and connect. You may not like that. Now, I don't know how that sits with you. That may affect, I don't know. Honestly, if you're an educated person, you may go, I don't care. I don't want a president who talks like a fifth grader. I appreciate that. But I remember Chris Stigall 2015. And I remember how dazzled and impressed I was with Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is one of the smartest men I've ever been in a room with, ever. Ted Cruz can recite the Constitution chapter and verse. Ted Cruz can make an impromptu stump speech for half an hour without stammering, saying or and say some of the most glittering, amazing, verbose speechifying that I've ever heard in my life. It's captivating. And I kept saying, he's the real guy. He's the conservative. And people kept saying, shut up. Shut up. He is not. He's not one of us. He's one of them. And I kept saying, but I don't get it. He says all the right things, and he's so smart. That guy calls Rosie O'Donnell a pig. And remember, I've talked with you about this a lot. Like, the first time I watched people laughing hysterically at Donald Trump, the first time I saw a guy say, I'm voting for that guy, he's hilarious. And I went, what the hell am I watching? How's this? What's going on here? Ted Cruz is brilliant. Ted Cruz is conservative. He knows policy. He knows the Constitution. He's brilliant. Donald Trump. What I didn't understand is what I'm afraid some people who are now falling into this trap, and trust me because I was there, are forgetting. You may have forgotten it, or maybe you're trying to forget it. I appreciate and understand the desire to move out of this mess. I do. I appreciate and understand how much many of you want somebody who gives very cogent, very specific, very detailed, very mature reactions to questions and gives you very detailed policy prescriptions for problems facing the nation. I respect you. Listen to me. I am not pandering and I am not mocking. I'm not dismissing. I understand your sentiment and I know why you're excited about Ron DeSantis. I respect it and I get it because I was you about Ted Cruz. And all the while, everyone around me kept saying, you don't get it, Stigall. And I was going, I don't know what you're telling me I don't get. I'm a conservative. He's a conservative. What's to get? And now, Chris Stigall, 2023, is coming to you gently, lovingly, and saying to you people who are looking at me and going, I don't get it. Ron DeSantis, Yale, policy, brilliant, accomplished. And I go, you don't understand that there's a guy in Pittsburgh who's never voted in his adult life until he voted for Donald Trump. You don't understand that there are millions of people that, for whatever reason, justified or not in your mind, they connected with Donald Trump in a way no political figure has ever connected with them, and they have not abandoned him. He talks like they talk. He talks at a basic level. Most people, as much as you and I understand it, most people don't know what ESG is. They don't know what Vanguard and BlackRock are. They don't know. Trump knows, but Trump doesn't talk about it that way. DeSantis knows. DeSantis can explain it better than anybody in politics, probably. And you and I would have a dazzling evening of conversation around a dinner with Ron DeSantis. And you'd be like, why is this guy not running the world? And I say, back to the Newt thing. Trump has a way of communicating. Remember how they freaked out over the E. Jean Carroll? He got the crowd laughing, folks. He got the crowd laughing at something that everyone wanted him to take so seriously. This should destroy you. You were just hit with a $5 million settlement that you sexually harassed someone. And he was like, she's a nut job. And the crowd's roaring and laughing at her. And if you don't understand the power of that with millions of people, I say lovingly, in all due respect, you're missing it. And I missed it. Years ago, I missed it. I'm not missing it again. And I know you say, Chris, it's got to be a lot more than that. Okay, if you think you can win without that, show me the way. I thought Ted Cruz could too. He didn't, did he? So, I mean, let's compare DeSantis and Trump on Ukraine, for instance, right? This would be another great example. Take a listen.
Well, first, I think what we need to do as a veteran is recognize that our military has become politicized. You talk about gender ideology, you talk about things like global warming that they're somehow concerned, and that's not the military that I served in. We need to return our military to focusing on commitment, focusing on the core values and the core mission. That would be something that I could take care of on day one. There'll be a new sheriff in town as commander-in-chief, and I think you'll see recruiting start to get back to where it needs to be because people don't want to join a woke military, and I think it's been really, really problematic. Look, in terms of what's going on over in Eastern Europe, I'd like to see a settlement of this. I do not want to see a wider war. I think it's completely unknowable what it will look like in January of 2025, but I would not want to see the United States with our troops get enmeshed in a war in Russia or in Ukraine.
Every word he said is 100% true, and I agree with it completely, and I enthusiastically back and support every word he just said. How did Donald Trump answer a similar question on CNN's town hall?
Can I just follow up on that? You said you don't think in terms of winning and losing. Mr. President, can I just follow up on that because that's a really important statement that you just made there. Can you say if you want Ukraine or Russia to win this war?
I want everybody to stop dying. They're dying. Russians and Ukrainians. I want them to stop dying. And I'll have that done. I'll have that done in 24 hours. I'll have it done. You need the power of the presidency to do it.
But you won't say that you want Ukraine to win. You
know what I'll say? I'll say this. I want Europe to put up more money because they're in for 20 billion. We're in for 170, and they should be. And they should equalize. They have plenty of money.
So I mean, do you hear that? You hear the difference, right? You hear it. And that, I just want you to know that what I've just done for you here is saved you a year of confusion and frustration. I'm trying to save you a year of frustration and confusion. Those of you who are ready to move off Trump and go DeSantis. You have to, I don't care how impressive Ron DeSantis is. There are millions of Americans that like Trump because he says things simply and plainly and in ways that they get him. Excellence in dentistry. That's what you're going to get at Williamsburg Dental. My friend Bob Spinato is back on the phone. He's in Broomall, just off the Blue Route. And with 2 new associates, now you can expand and offer more hours, maybe evening hours, possibly weekends, Bob.
Yeah, one of the things that I told them from early on when they started with me was the value of not only their own time, but other people's times. And they run on a similar schedule that I do. If you've got a 1 o'clock appointment, you're in their chair at 1 o'clock. And it's something that across the board at Williamsburg Dental, we really pride ourselves on, whether it's an appointment with the hygienist or whether it's an appointment with one of our doctors. The other thing is we now have some expanded hours in the evenings, and even there's some discussion about opening again on some Saturdays for services.
Yeah, but not you. You're fishing. You're not kidding anybody. It's not you going to be working on Saturday. Come on,
Well, I'm in my 33rd year, and it should be the young guns.
That's right. You've earned it. You've earned it.
I feel like I have. Thank you.
Pick up the phone or go online, make that appointment, 610-353-2700 or williamsburg-dental.com. The only way that I can explain myself here is to just lay my soul bare and be honest with you. I have said to you 1,000 times, I don't have an objection to either Trump or DeSantis becoming the nominee. I wish them both the very best, and I would be enthusiastically supportive of either of them as president of the United States. And I will enthusiastically vote for either man should they secure the nomination. Having said that, I will be honest with this audience, as I've tried to be from the beginning, and say to you, as I said to a friend of mine who's extraordinarily excited about Ron DeSantis, I said, I'm going to be honest with you, okay? This isn't strategic. This isn't logic. This isn't good politics, what I'm about to say, but it's true. I am mad as hell. I'm angry. I feel righteously, virtuously furious at the direction of this country, and very specifically on behalf of my family and me. I feel, in many ways, my family has been violated by the government of the United States, by the government of Pennsylvania. I feel Democrats have violated and in many ways disrupted my life in very real ways. I'm not going to cry in my beer and whine to you about all the specific ways, but I think you and I, and if you're a regular listener to this show, you know my history by now enough to know, in the last few years, through COVID, terribly traumatic, really made me angry. I remember names. I remember who did it. I remember who was behind it. I remember the bastards who have taken advantage, who have had their boots on our necks. I remember the people who have sandbagged this former president. I remember the institutions. I remember the DOJ and the FBI and the IRS. I remember these sham impeachments. I remember the former president's home being raided. I remember my family's life being destroyed by a bunch of overzealous, corrupt government people. I now see so many of us living paycheck to paycheck and being squeezed from all sides because of this Democrat administration and these Democrat policies coming at us from right and left every day. I see this constant assault on our way of life. Normalcy, tradition, family, values, the Constitution. It's under constant attack from who? From people who hate Donald Trump very specifically. They hate him a lot. And I believe railroaded him ultimately. And so, I'm emotional. Fast Eddie, if I could be honest, I'm emotional. And this is not good politics, and it's not smart, and it's not logical, and it's not all the things that paid people and professional Yale-educated politicians are. I'm just a dumb, emotional, angry American who wants retribution. I want to get the bastards.
Chris, I'm 110% with you. I honestly, accountability is my biggest thing. Accountability needs to happen.
I want to get the bastards. If I could boil 2024 down on a bumper sticker, get the bastards. That's my motivating factor. I get up every day thinking, get the bastards. Probably not Christian if my preacher were listening right now. Not smart politics. I stipulate all that. But I know I'm not alone. And I know Fast Eddie's not alone. I know I speak on behalf of millions of people who feel exactly as I do. That is not an attack on Ron DeSantis. Hear me. That is not discounting. That is not dismissing. That is not throwing Ron DeSantis overboard or suggesting he can't fix these things or do something about it. Donald Trump, to me, Donald Trump represents the embodiment of my anger. That's not Ron DeSantis' fault. There's nothing Ron DeSantis can do to harness that. Does that make sense? I'm trying to be really honest with you here.
It entirely makes sense. 100% crystal clear.
So that's what I've been trying to communicate to my friends who are like, I'm so tired of Trump. I'm tired of the nonsense. I want to move on. Ron DeSantis has such a command of the facts and the issues. And I know he does. And he's a damn good governor. And I believe he'd be a great president. Newt, last night. Clip number 1 from Newt.
Warning signs for DeSantis. He sometimes seems aloof, as too online, a.k.a. tonight's glitchy Twitter announcement, too invested in the cultural issues when we all know Americans list economy, inflation, jobs as most important issues. And, oh, yeah, the former president is walloping him in the primary polls. So let's unpack all this with Newt Gingrich, former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor, author of the new book, March to the Majority. Let's hope. Newt, what's the first thing DeSantis needs to do if those impressions are, baked in at all? I'm not sure they are, to turn that around.
Look, I think he has to find a big, positive message. And I think you're right. It mostly is about the economy. And he has to communicate somehow that he's uniquely different from Trump, that he's the guy who can get it done. This is a country that is in trouble. The American people know that they're economically in trouble. They know they're in trouble with crime. They're in trouble at the border. They're in trouble in terms of a woke value system that's trying to impose itself on them. And I think what they want is a leader who's positive, who has a plan that makes sense. And I think the challenge for DeSantis, he had several months to do this, and he didn't do it. He adopted a deliberate strategy, I think, of going further to the right than Trump on cultural issues. And what that did is it said to all the people who are moderate Republicans, well, this mustn't be the guy. That's why you now have Tim Scott in the race. You're going to get several more people in the race because there's a vacuum there that DeSantis didn't fill. And I think he's a very good governor. He's done a great job in Florida. He has a good message. But so far, he hasn't come across as a charismatic leader with a compelling message that makes you say, yeah, he's the guy. He's the person I want to have lead the country. And if he doesn't find a message like that, then his campaign will just gradually peter out.
Now, let me just say this about that. Tomi Lahren, who's probably, you know Tomi on Fox. We've had her on a couple of times. Tomi Lahren is probably one of the most pro-Trump consistent conservative types out there. She said yesterday on Twitter, and I agree with her, tread lightly with all the excrement talking on Ron DeSantis, Trump people. If DeSantis does become the nominee, you're going to have to reckon with all the comments you make now. And if you tell me that Joe Biden is better than Ron DeSantis, you really are no better than the never-Trumpers of 2016. She's exactly right. For every reason I just told you that I kind of viscerally identify or connect with Trump, that doesn't mean I'm going to talk excrement on DeSantis. I have no desire to run Ron DeSantis down, and I won't. And I think, I read a lot of jackass pro-Trump people that are running Ron DeSantis down, and it's ridiculous. Ron DeSantis does not deserve disrespect. And this nonsense George Soros, Jeb Bush crap, it's crap. It's crap. It's not right. There's a lot of things you can criticize Ron DeSantis for, and I don't think it's that. And I just think that is a stoop. Now, listen, politics ain't beanbag. And if you people think that Trump's not going to do that stuff, you're kidding yourself. So Trump issues this AI-generated mock-up of the town hall last night. I don't even know that we can air it because it was full of swears and stuff. But people are furious at Trump because he put up on Truth Social a mock-up of last night's Twitter Spaces with Elon. That was the big flub. And on it looked to be participating Satan, Klaus Schwab, the FBI, Hitler. And there were these people doing all these fake voices, pretending to be all these characters, talking over one another in the Ron DeSantis launch. And people are like, I can't believe that he invoked Hitler. And I'm like, do you all not get this? Do you really not understand him yet? Do you really not? How do you not understand this? Like, people are just, that's just crossed the line. How dare Trump? These are people that voted for Trump in the last 2 election cycles. And they're like, I can't believe he did that to Ron. You can't believe that? You really can't believe he did that to Ron? Come on. He wants that from you. He wants to get that rise out of you. And by the way, I hate to tell you this, there are millions of Trumpists who thought that was funny as hell. They thought it was funny, Fast Eddie. They're not outraged. They thought it was funny.
That's how they're going to react. My dad was cracking up when I was trying.
Tell me the story of your dad. Tell me the story about your dad last night.
I'm at the kitchen table. I'm obviously 6 o'clock. I'm trying to listen, and I get booted out, and then I get booted out again. They finally get launched, and then they stop mid-sentence. He's like, is Ron having trouble launching his campaign there, Sonny? I'm like, yes.
He was making fun of him.
He was, yes.
This is where it is. This is where we are. I'm, again, trying to lay my soul bare and be as transparent and honest and fair as I can be about this. I would be an enthusiastic voter for Ron DeSantis if he's successful. I would like to go to sleep and wake up when this is all over, quite frankly. I dread this. I don't want to do this. I hate this. Hate it. But I'm going to try to be really honest and fair with you and both of these men and talk to you honestly about how I think their voters are thinking. That puts me at cross purposes with half of this audience every time I open my mouth. That's painful. Well, look, he doesn't take any delight in it, but I have a feeling that somewhere in the corner of Mike's mind, he's a good man who would never say this aloud, but Mike Lindell at MyPillow might feel just a smidge of schadenfreude at the news that Bed Bath & Beyond has gone bankrupt. Yeah, the company that first threw Mike's pillows and products out of their store has now filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Well, I can tell you at mypillow.com, they're anything but bankrupt. They are fantastic. They are high quality. They are doing well by their customers, and they don't need a retailer like Kohl's or Bed Bath & Beyond. Yes, they sold their products and sold them well until politics got in the way, so Mike just took it all online, and MyPillow.com is roaring. He also sells at his store the My Coffee, which I drink now and love, and I hope you'll go online and order all of it. And I hope you'll use my name, Chris Podcast, when you do it. If you go to Chris Podcast as your promo code when you go to MyPillow.com, Chris Podcast, you'll get up to 80% on a lot on that website. You'll get discounts regardless, but particularly some of the clearance stuff, you'll save ridiculous money. So please use the promo code Chris Podcast when you order, and I do hope you do. We have an entire bed outfitted with MyPillow stuff now. We've got the sheets, we've got the blanket, we've got the pillows. Even Dean has his own MyPillow dog bed. Like I said, I drink the MyPillow, or it's not MyPillow coffee. It's called My Coffee. I keep screwing that up. That would be weird if it was pillow coffee. No, it's coffee, which I sip sometimes while leaning against my pillow. The MyPillow 2.0, the mattress topper, which is like a brand new mattress without paying for a brand new mattress. You know, he'll ship that mattress topper to you for free if you use my promo code Chris Podcast right now. It's covered in that new 2.0 fabric. So are his pillows that keep you cool all night long. He'll send you a second MyPillow 2.0 if you use my promo code Chris Podcast. For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, it's true. He's made me a believer. Dean, my dog, as well. The slippers, the towels, the bed sheets, the pajamas, and so much more. And yes, even the coffee. Go to MyPillow.com. Use the promo code Chris Podcast and save, or call today 800-932-5056. 800-932-5056. Who needs Bed Bath & Beyond anyway? MyPillow.com, promo code Chris Podcast. The Trump team issued a series of headlines reviewing last night's Town Hall Twitter Spaces launch with Ron DeSantis. They featured Breitbart News headline, "No Safe Spaces, Twitter launch debacle for DeSantis," Daily Mail. "Biggest fail in campaign launches in history, Ron DeSantis mocked for shambolic Twitter room presidential announcement." Newsweek, "Ron DeSantis disastrous 2024 launch marred by Twitter glitches." At Just the News, "DeSantis announcement met with major tech issues. Trump reacts with meme." That meme, by the way, has people's heads on fire. Liz Harrington joins us. She is with the Trump re-election team and joins us again, I believe, from Florida. Liz, good morning. Welcome in.
Hey, good morning, Chris. How are you?
Well, I'm fine. I ask people that are upset about the meme, I don't know if it was a chat GPT recreation that Trump posted last night on Truth Social, people reacting to it, and I keep saying to people, do you not know how this works by now? Do you not understand? Do you not understand his humor? Yeah.
I thought all these people were geniuses on how to use Twitter, right? I mean, this is the groundbreaking, announcement. If they wanted to do audio only, you guys are on radio. It sounds just fine. The technology's been around for a while. That would have been made a safer bet.
Let me ask you a question. I want to start with, if I could hit rewind to a couple of weeks ago, and the CNN town hall, Liz. There were a lot of pro-Trump people who listened to this show that were curious and asked if they thought it was a good idea that Trump go to CNN, and that it would only, in fact, when I asked on a Twitter poll, will you watch it? Many people said, I love Trump, but I'm not going to help CNN, even though their ratings did spike something like 3 million. I mean, they had the highest ratings they've had in years, but a lot of people said, no, I don't want to help CNN. They view that as Trump helping CNN. How did the team view it?
Well, look, I mean, it was really kind of a deal that President Trump saw and was like, this should be a great environment for us. Yes, we have a negative, hostile anchor, but it's in front of a room full of voters, Republican primary voters. And that element is President Trump at his best when he's talking directly to the people. And that's why he shined. That's why he did such a great job. I mean, anybody that did tune in, I understand, not wanting to support CNN, of course. I mean, nobody's been worse to our movement than CNN. But President Trump took advantage of that format and got his message out. And it was fantastic. I mean, the questions from the audience were terrific. And they just show their true colors. I mean, Caitlin Collins was trying, her best to try to, wreck the whole thing. And it just was a disaster for her. It exposes them. So really, I didn't see the downside too much of it at all, because President Trump, when he gets out there in front of the people, it's just too much common sense, and people can't look away. They want more. They want to hear more from the greatest leader we've had in modern American history.
I don't know what polls will look like now that DeSantis has made it official, but heretofore, every poll I've seen and the real clear average of polls, it's a devastating lead at present that President Trump has over Governor DeSantis in a head-to-head matchup. By a lot. And in fact, it jumped from a hypothetical matchup in the spring where it was a little tighter to just like a lights-out 30-point lead, according to most polls. And I wonder what you attribute that to. Like, why has it jumped? It seems, in my opinion, after indictments and the E. Jean Carroll mess, it seems that it only strengthened Trump with Republican voters. Is that your impression?
Well, I think things have gotten a lot more serious, and not just in the country. Obviously, with our completely broken border, with the dollar just collapsing, our energy independence gone. All these things, the weaponization of justice kind of crystallized what's going on with our country, whether we're going to have a constitutional republic anymore. So as issues got more serious and people's true colors were shown, when you look at the Florida governor, and people see what the real choice is, and they say, there's not a real choice here. It's got to be President Trump. We got to have our best fighter. We've got to have someone who's already proven, who's made America great again and can easily do it again. And we've got to have the one who's the number one target of the corrupt cabal running this country. I mean, there's a reason why they're coming up with sham indictments, that the never-ending election interference, it just doesn't stop. And it's targeting one man and one movement because he's the most effective. He's the only one who's the real deal. And Ron DeSantis also look, he's been running for president for months. And once you see who the candidates are, people say, yeah, we want President Trump. And it's not just nationally. I mean, it's state polls. The Iowa poll just came out. President Trump is up by over 40 points. I mean, this is not close. That embarrassing launch is not going to help. And if he was smart, he would have stayed out of it. And if he cared about the country, he would have said, let's help President Trump win, because if he doesn't win, we won't have a country left.
Sean Spicer told me yesterday, Liz Harrington, that this is about math, really, when it comes right down to it. In the early primary states, you got to win those. You can like whoever you want to like, but you've got to have the math, and the early primary states are going to set the pace. And you just mentioned Iowa. I haven't looked at the numbers of all the early primary states, but if those leads hold, again, they're pretty sizable leads for President Trump right now in the early primary states.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're huge. And look, they're going to throw hundreds of millions of dollars at this, which kind of tells you exactly whose side everybody's on here. But it's not going to work. I mean, you can have all the money in the world. If you don't have the real substance, you're not a real person who's going to deliver results. I mean, ask Michael Bloomberg, right? President Trump, like you say, he spent $100 million. He couldn't get past the first question from Elizabeth Warren. I mean, the campaign was over. It's not an easy thing to run for president. I think that's what people realize when they see President Trump. It's not an easy thing. The sacrifice he's given up, him and his family, he is such a unique leader that really this country has been blessed to have and will have again. And he doesn't need to do it. And I think that is really what sets him apart as well. All these other people, it's all about the next job. It's all about their own personal political ambition. Not for President Trump. He's already had it all. The only thing he's doing, the only reason he's doing this is because he loves the country.
What do you say to people, Liz Harrington, with Team Donald Trump, President Trump, running for re-election, and joins us this morning? Liz, what do you say to people who say Trump's only going to have another 4 years? This one bite at the apple's half the time we need. We really need a full runway of 8. You say what?
Under budget and ahead of schedule. This has been his entire life. And the great thing about it is he's already been there. Now he knows all the players. I mean, he was a complete and total outsider. Unfortunately, had to rely on some people who many of us, thought were pretty good, thought were pretty, right wing or, conservative people. And they turned out to not be. They turned out to be members of the Uniparty. So that's all changed now. President Trump knows exactly who to put in these key positions. He knows how to clean house because he's already lived it. He's exposed it more than anybody, I think, could have imagined how corrupt our system is. And he can fight it. And so it's actually more freeing. He won't have to worry about the re-election or anything else. He will be able to get things done. And that's been his entire life. Things that have been impossible, things that nobody else could do in the business world, and look, things like the Woolman Rink in New York City, and things that just were for years and years nobody could get done. President Trump comes in, gets it done in record time under budget. That's how he treats fixing this country. And we saw how fast he got this economy booming in his first term. It's going to be even more incredible because we won't have the deep state sabotage because that's number one priority. He's going to clean it all up. We're going to finally get some accountability.
It's interesting, the discussion about not looking back and moving forward. And I know the DeSantis people were trying to kind of carve out after that CNN town hall. Did you see that? Did you watch that? Look, that was all a relitigation of the past. DeSantis has a vision for the way forward. And my only criticism in that is the past is full of things that are so egregious and abusive. I don't think they can be ignored. I don't want to ignore them. I don't want to ignore the corruption of the FBI and the corruption of the last election and the corruption of the media. I can't ignore that. That's hard for me as a voter to ignore. So I'm curious, does the campaign talk about the past or the problems we're dealing with and how to solve the future, or try to do both? It is an interesting juxtaposition because the past, in this case, does matter. It's a terribly abusive past that's got to be fixed.
Well, the past is also the present, right? I mean,
good point. Not like it's over.
Stop.
Yeah.
It's gotten worse.
Yeah.
And look what they're doing. I mean, look at these sham indictments. I mean, now they're not just illegally spying on President Trump. Now they're, unlawfully trying to put him in jail. I mean, so they're not, things aren't getting better, and you have to deal with it. You have to deal with it. That's why it's so imperative that our movement wins this election, and I know we will. But because this is so corrupt, it's not just about President Trump. They're doing this to innocent people, regardless of your background or where you come from, just because of your political views. That is not equal justice under the law. That's not a constitutional republic, and it must end. We won't have a country left. So these things are ongoing. It's so interesting to me that the best was the CNN focus group after the town hall where they said, gosh, don't you want President Trump to talk about 2024 and the future? And he's like, well, CNN could have asked him about 2024.
That is true.
Anything.
You keep bringing it up, they said. Yeah.
Yeah, they want to talk about their propaganda, but honestly, we need the truth on all of these issues. That's the only way we're going to be able to fix the corruption is if we have the full story. So, yeah, it's a balance of both. But, I mean, nobody gets that more than President Trump. He knows what the real issues are and what matters, and that's why he's so capable of fixing them.
I know this is not in the Trump lexicon. This is not in the Trump dictionary. Nobody talks about losing or even thinks about it. I do get that. But here's what people I read on my social media posts lament about President Trump. If for some reason he's not successful in this primary, I've read people assert that he's such a loose cannon and such a disruptor. He'd run third party. He'd run against DeSantis. He wouldn't close ranks. He wouldn't be helpful. Do you care to respond to that? I hear that thrown around a lot, and I'm just throwing it at you. Not my opinion, just something I read, and I was curious how you'd respond.
I mean, like you said, it's not even in the thought process. Yeah. Honestly, it's not an option. Yeah. We can't. The country's just too important. It's on the line. And I think that's reflecting in all the polls. That's why he's up so high. People get it. They know how important this moment is in our history. It's not just about, political games and consultants and, who can get the headline. It's not trying to craft, the perfect campaign launch to get some buzz, which is kind of pathetic, by the way, when you think that this guy needed somebody with more star power to be at his own campaign launch, I guess, to get interest. But it's not about all these things. It's about something so much deeper. And President Trump's never going to quit. He's never going to quit. His mission is saving this country. That's what we're all focused on. And, it's not even in the lexicon, like you said.
Understood. Liz Harrington, spokesperson for President Donald Trump, at RealLizUSA on Twitter, by the way. She's a firecracker on Twitter, if you want to watch her there. Any interest, by the way, or is Elon now officially aligned with DeSantis, and that will officially close the books on any idea that Trump would ever start tweeting again?
Well, truth was really hot last night,
yeah.
As I'm sure everyone saw with the keyboard warriors and everything else. I mean, look, President Trump is firing off, and it's been really so important to have these alternative platforms that are really free. There's no algorithm. You don't have to worry about any of that. And so I think he's firmly staying in truth.
Thanks, Liz Harrington. Hope we can have you back. Easy listening element to her. There's the rock element to her. There's the soulful element to her. I do not know how to categorize this woman's music. I really don't.
Simply the best, Chris. That's it.
Just stellar, really. Just absolutely remarkable. 83 years old, she died yesterday in Switzerland, where she called home, I guess, the last decade or so of her life. Renounced her citizenship, interestingly. I don't know why. I would love to read more about that. Why she ultimately decided to call Switzerland home. Beautiful place. But I don't know if that was political. I don't know if that was just personal. I don't know. But anyway, Tina Turner, dead at age 83. Hogan Gidley is a senior strategic communications advisor to the America First Policy Institute. Hogan was a deputy White House press secretary in the Trump administration, as you know. And I think, I don't mean to speak for him, but I think it's pretty clear that Hogan has been overtly pro-Trump for another bite at the apple. I don't think he's hidden that, but I should ask just to make sure I know for a fact as I welcome him back to the show. Hogan, you have picked the horse in this primary fight, have you not? Good morning.
Good morning. I have not.
Oh, you have not?
So
okay, misspoke then.
You on your show. No. I am pro-Trump.
Yes.
His policies, I think, really improved this nation and obviously helped all Americans, regardless of race, religion, color, or creed. And I hope that those policies get implemented again. It remains to be seen who's going to walk away with this nomination, but Trump is obviously in the driver's seat with like a 40-point lead over the field. So, as Trump likes to say, we'll see what happens.
Can DeSantis, sincere question, there's a lot of time. We talked to Spicer yesterday, who said this is all about early state primary math, really. I don't think you disagree. Mm-hmm. I get that, too. So it seems pretty sizable in states like Iowa. If polls are to be believed, Trump's way up. Can DeSantis close that gap or even surpass Trump between then and now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tall task. It's not that it can't be done. Look, I didn't hear the Spicer interview, but Spicer understands this very well, having worked at the RNC. I've done now, 4 presidential campaigns. I've done a ton of announcements for president and for other offices. You want your announcement to be as scripted as you possibly can have it. You do not want there to be mistakes. And so when Tim Scott gets up on stage and a microphone goes out, it's kind of fodder for people to make fun of him. But the announcement day is the announcement day, and you don't want really anything to step on that. DeSantis is no different. He goes on Twitter, tries something new. It fails miserably. I don't have a problem with him choosing Twitter, albeit 80% of the traffic on Twitter is done by 20% of the users, so it's a small universe. It's a niche audience. What I had a problem with was the fact that they built it as some type of organic, quote-unquote, Elon Musk said, non-scripted format. But it was scripted. As Ron DeSantis read off the top a long message. It was a he was reading like an op-ed or something. It wasn't as off the cuff. It may be from the heart, but it was scripted, and that's fine. I mean, I would encourage any candidate to make sure it's scripted. You only have one chance to make that first impression, but it wasn't billed that way. And then the questions that were asked in the forum weren't asked by regular people. They were asked by elites. They were asked by people who've donated to DeSantis already, huge money mega donors, or supporters in some of these states that have already come out and supported him or given money to it, whatever. And that's fine, but don't bill it as something organic. That was my real problem with it. But to echo something Spicer probably said, people are going to say this was a horrible announcement who don't like DeSantis. People are going to say it was a great announcement for people who do like DeSantis. The media is going to call everybody on our side racist, whatever. What matters is what happens after the announcement. This will be news, his entry into this race, for about another 4 hours today. And then it's going to come down to blocking and tackling in Iowa, South Carolina, and New Hampshire. That's all that matters. The chatter matters on the day of from the standpoint of making news, but as it relates to winning, it really doesn't matter at all. It's about who you have on the ground to turn out votes. Yes, your message is going to matter. Yes, money is going to matter. The announcement, okay. Everybody gets their day of announcement, and then you move on.
So, Hogan Gidley, when people like Vivek Ramaswamy, Asa Hutchinson, Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, when they get in, and most people have talked past them, looked past them, and said this is only Trump, it's only DeSantis, there's really nothing else to discuss. I assume most of those candidates are sincere. They earnestly are running, and they want to win. But I would also assume there's some of them that have some sort of strategic play in mind, knowing full well they don't stand a prayer at the nomination. Is that true?
No, not necessarily. I disagree with you twice now on this show already.
Well, that's it then. It's been nice talking. Goodbye, Hogan Gidley. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, here's why. Here's why. No one is going to all 99 counties in Iowa, as assuming some of these people will, like Huckabee did, like Santorum did, both of their campaigns I was a part of. You don't do that unless you believe to some degree you're better than the other people running, that you have the solutions to bring this country back to her greatness. Okay? So they're doing that. If they see a path where the votes don't go their way, but they've not hurt themselves, good for them. But remember, not everyone walks off that presidential stage looking like Shinola. You can walk out looking like the other. And not everyone gets a Huckabee contract on Fox and massive radio contracts and makes a ton of money. Some of them just oops themselves off the stage, a la Rick Perry, who I love, by the way, but still, he walks off, and then he's just kind of nothing for a little bit till Trump taps in to do energy.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, it's not a guaranteed money-making endeavor.
You probably know him. You probably know Asa Hutchinson, former governor of Arkansas. I don't have any relationship with him.
Talked to him a couple weeks ago.
He comes from a sincere place where he really believes he has a shot at the nomination. You believe?
Oh, yes. But hey, I know a lot of people who think they can fly. They can't. Okay. He's sincere in his belief, right? Children sincerely believe that there's a Santa Claus. There isn't. I know he sincerely believes it. I just don't see it happen. And by the way, let me just make this clear. Because I said I work for Huckabee and Santorum, understand, 1% in the polls does not scare me away at all.
Okay.
I knew those people had a chance to catch fire, and they did. Both of them did. Because I saw something in them that gravitated toward that America First policy, the America First base, that group that was kind of fed up with the status quo. I don't see a lane for Asa Hutchinson. I bet he doesn't even make it to the caucus. I don't even know. Did they quit the straw poll? I can't even remember. But that's going to be a problem for him the whole way around. I bet Nikki Haley doesn't make it to South Carolina.
Yeah.
I bet she drops out after Iowa.
Her own state?
Yeah, because she doesn't want to finish 4th or 5th in her own home state, and she would. Tim Scott's going to beat her there. He just ran a race for Senate. He's got an apparatus. He's got people to get out the vote. I don't think Tim Scott finishes above 3rd, but he definitely is a good man. He's a good senator. He has an incredible backstory talking about his being raised by a single woman and going from cotton to Congress in one generation. I mean, it's a great story, and it highlights the greatness of America, the faith and hope in America that so few on the left actually have. In fact, they push the opposite. But still, I don't know what his path is either, unless, as I said, DeSantis and Trump are going to slog it out at the top. I think DeSantis hopes, in some measure, that the courts fatally wound Trump so he doesn't have to try. Because if he does it, he will, in essence, undercut and anger his own MAGA base that he'll need himself should he actually go on to run for president against Joe Biden. And then as they fight it out, everyone else is hoping that it so tarnishes both DeSantis and Trump that they're the beneficiary as the votes just fall into the Tim Scott bucket, for example, or the Vivek bucket, for example.
So a large number of these people who are running are calculating that Trump's legal problems could take him out without them having to do the heavy lifting themselves. Is that it?
Well, yeah, but if they try to take him out, it's a problem too. So that's the gamble. Because look, who did everyone attack after DeSantis made his announcement? They're not going after Trump. They're going after DeSantis.
Yeah.
Right? They don't want to tangle with Trump for obvious reasons. So they're trying to hurt DeSantis and make it unpalatable to so many of the donor class and so many of the voters, and kind of we know the real truth about DeSantis type language, wink, wink. And then everyone else is hoping, if they can't lay a glove on Trump, maybe the courts can do it, and then it gives them an out. Like if the courts really hurt Trump, then they can say these courts are all rigged against Republicans. Look at the way they're going after Trump. This is a two-tier justice system. And they can just smile all the way to the voter bank, if you will, while they don't have to get their hands dirty. Does that make sense?
Totally. Like the biggest gift DeSantis could be handed, frankly, is if Trump is sidelined legally, then he can play good guy and go, I can't believe what they're doing to Trump, and I'm going to go fight on his behalf, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
and I'm going to go fight for Trump. Yeah, he can almost become an advocate for Trump, knowing he doesn't have a shot because the courts have hurt him so bad.
Interesting.
I'm not saying the courts are going to hurt him that bad because all these things are hoaxes. I'm just saying that's what I think the hope is for some of these candidates.
One of the most, because you're a communications specialist, one of the most interesting comments about yesterday and DeSantis was something I had not considered before. It came in a discussion between Laura Ingraham and Newt Gingrich last night. I don't know your relationship with Newt, but I think Newt's brilliant as a communicator. I think he's one of the best there is.
He does stuff for America First Policy Institute, so I know Newt.
Yeah, and I think Newt's a Trump guy, I think. I don't know that for a fact, but so they were discussing Ron DeSantis communicating and the way he speaks, and they played a clip from him from that town hall as you were just talking. This is about 2 minutes, if you can hang with me, Hogan. I wanted you to hear this conversation and then get your response. Here we go.
We will not be a free society if major financial institutions can do through the economy what people could not achieve through the ballot box. Our rights will be restricted, will be the end result, and that's not healthy for a free country.
Now, Newt, and it's a good point, but can people grab onto that and kind of understand, a la the contract with America, what is he getting at there? I mean, you and I know, but can the folks around the dinner table understand that who are not into politics?
This may seem like an odd comment, but I think that he's very, very smart. He clearly did very well at Yale. He is clearly capable of thinking about big ideas. But, Ronald Reagan was probably equally smart, but he also understood that he had to communicate so that everyday folks understood it. One of Trump's great advantages is he talks at a level where third, fourth, and fifth grade educations can say, oh, yeah, I get that. I understand it. And in fact, Trump has now made the Republican Party the party of working Americans in a way that probably hasn't been true for almost 100 years. So the challenge for DeSantis is take that interesting sentence and figure out how do you boil it down to a slogan and to a specific thing. I think it's fair to say, and I know this from the polling data we do at the America's New Majority Project, the American people fear big business as much as they fear big government. They think both of them are dangerous. And I think a candidate who ran to take both of them on would have an advantage. But I also agree strongly with you. Much deeper than that issue is the question of what are you going to do about the economy? And frankly, here, Speaker Kevin McCarthy and the House Republicans have begun to move the Republicans, I think, into a very interesting opportunity. They will have in the next few weeks a 10-year plan to get to a balanced budget with lower taxes, greater economic growth, less inflation. That's the sort of thing that DeSantis ought to be campaigning on.
Yeah, and he went on to say Trump, his great advantage is his ability to speak to, quote, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade levels of education. And that's not an insult, but that's important. That's actually important. And their point was that DeSantis almost comes off as too stilted and bookish in his explanations of things, and that could hurt him versus Trump. And so that's a long-winded wind-up to ask you, Hogan Gidley, do you concur?
100%. And I would not say it's important. I would say it's vital to be able to talk to people on that low level, not because people can't understand the higher level, although it's difficult for many of us out here in regular America. But you want to be able to say something quickly, short, sharp, succinct, that people understand. And look, on its face, he talked about debanking, Republicans, conservatives getting kind of screwed over by different corporations, did Ron DeSantis, and that's great. But the person running the thing was a guy named David Sachs who ran PayPal. We know what PayPal did to conservatives, and they sold it before all that. But he also invests in Facebook and Airbnb, both of whom have been caught censoring conservatives, deplatforming conservatives, refusing to rent to conservatives. So, it's that's just weird kind of behind the scenes, inside baseball stuff. But still, the fact remains communication is key. And you wonder so often, how come Democrat policies have been just proven to be failures at every level? How come they're so radical and so unpopular with the American people, but yet somehow these radical leftists win elections? In large part, it's because of the blocking and tackling I talked about that you have to have to win elections that Democrats have. But it's also because of the messaging. They literally have better messaging about things and paint the conservative as somehow out of touch, somehow, crazy. I was on a panel with someone the other day talking about the extreme ideology of the right and on abortion or whatever it was. And I pointed out to the person, you're aware that every single senator in the United States Senate but one voted for a bill that allows abortion anytime, any place, for any reason, up to the moment of birth, and they want the taxpayer to pay for it. 86% of the people in this country reject that. The problem is conservatives, after Roe v. Wade, for example, they didn't know what to do. It's the dog who caught the car. Yeah. They won on it and then shut up about it and let the Democrats paint them as lunatics instead of leaning in and saying, I'll tell you what, I'll defend my decision on life when you defend your decision on death. 90% of the country rejects it. You tell them why it's okay to do that to a baby, and then I'll tell you why I support life. That's the problem, the messaging. And if you don't have someone who can articulate a message short, sharp, succinct to the American people and persuade them, it's going to be a problem, regardless of how sound you are on policy.
Yeah, it is not that Trump's a dummy. It's that Trump speaks. Look, I've talked to more people that have said to me.
Very few dummy billionaires.
That's right.
Dummy billionaires.
But people get upset, I think, that they like to hear, because I fell victim to this. Hogan, I own this, and I'm self-flagellating constantly, owning the fact that in 2015, I said, listen to Ted Cruz. Listen to his soaring, dazzling rhetoric. Listen to him able to talk off the cuff without a note. He can recite the Constitution. He's a genius. And I would get angry at people for telling me, no, it's Trump. It's got to be Trump. And I'd furious, even with Rush. I would get mad. I didn't get it. And so I'm hearing that now with DeSantis. People are, he knows policy. He's brilliant. He's a governor. And I'm like, but you don't understand that I've met more 50-something-year-old men who voted for the first time in their lives because they felt something for Trump. And that's what people don't get.
I was in that Twitter space on the call before DeSantis gets on, and someone from the DeSantis camp was talking. I was listening to everyone kind of voice their opinion. I just said, look, he's got time to work on his ability to work with people. He's he'll grow into being able to get on their level and kind of associate better with people. And I thought, he's been a congressman and run for governor twice. You're telling me he doesn't know how to do that yet? That's a little bit odd, okay? And that's not something you're going to learn on a presidential stage. And as I often say, no lights burn hotter, no stage is bigger than that presidential. And it's going to be tough to try and learn something like, resonating, being able to kind of work with people at a local level if you haven't done it to this point. Not saying you can't do it. And by the way, some voters may not care. They just want someone who gets policy and they think they could go after Biden. Fine. And that's their prerogative. They can vote that way if they want to. But it is stupid. It is foolish to gloss over the importance of it. And I'll give you the Ted Cruz example. You want to talk about someone who is articulate, who is brilliant,
genius,
is also as contrived as the day is long. And you saw it when he got up there to go after Donald Trump, who had just attacked his wife, and he recites the soliloquy from the American President movie and just substituted his wife's name in for Sidney Ellen Wade, the character from the movie who just got caught sleeping with the president in The Resident. Like, that was his big, watch this. I'm just going to take a line. I'm going to take a monologue from Michael Douglas and then just drop in my wife's name. And everybody's like, wow, what a great speech. And we're like, yeah, I liked it the first time I heard it in the 90s when it was a movie about a fake president. Like, I like Ted. Again, he's smart and he's gotten better, right?
Yep.
But it's so rote. It was so rote on that campaign trail. It was hard to watch and definitely difficult to listen to. And every time I talked to someone in Iowa, I heard the same two words. The same two words. Well, three words. Car salesman and sleazy.
Yeah.
I heard it every time. Talking about Ted Cruz.
And I don't think that's Ron DeSantis. That's not. I don't think his critics would call him sleazy.
It's not.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't say that. And I don't think he's a car salesman. I don't. I think he knows policy. I think he's been a good governor. I really do. They're going to attack him for being racist, sexist, bigoted, homophobe, as Rush pointed out, regardless of who the nominee was. I mean, they did it to McCain. They did it to milquetoast Mitt Romney, of all people. Guy didn't even drink coffee. And somehow, remember, Joe Biden said that Mitt Romney was going to work to put black people back in chains. And what a stupid comment that is. And somehow, some way, Romney is now, I mean, just, it's insane.
Here's the thing you hear, though, everywhere you go, because people know you as being associated with Trump's team and his official White House communications team. You hear it all the time. I hear it all the time. There's a chunk of this audience who writes me, tweets at me, says this: Chris, Trump cannot win. He can't win those women. People who hate him will always hate him, and they're never going to come back to him. Hate his guts. He can't win. There's not a mathematical possibility he can win. I know you hear that because I hear it all the time. People are convinced he's so hated by such a large swath of this country, there's no winning with him. And you say what about that?
Nothing more compelling than an argument that uses math. Give me a break. It's not mathematically possible. Yes, the math argument, because everyone loves math. I mean, the whole country's not even proficient at grade level in math, and you're trying to tell me the math is going to keep him out? Look. The bottom line here is these are the same people who said he couldn't win the first time. Now, does that mean he can win the second time? I don't know. I think he can because I think the policies are going to trump, forgive the pun, the personality that people don't like about Donald Trump. But, when your border's wide open, when you're paying more for gas than for groceries, when the world's burning all over the place, crime is rampant in your cities, and the left has no policy prescription. In fact, they've caused a lot of these problems. I think they're going to want someone to fix it. They're not going to give a dang who it is. But at the same time, I get your point. And there are suburban women that Trump does have to win. I think he can win them. I really do. But, it takes work.
Do you think the Democrats, does Biden and the Democrats, do they fear Trump or DeSantis more head to head?
I don't know if they fear. I think they fear reality.
Yeah, right.
I think they fear They fear an angry electorate that they themselves are responsible for angering.
Yeah.
That's what they fear.
Yep.
And you know, they'll you know, look, I think because everyone on the right is fighting for that we're Trump's policies without his personality space, that's why Haley and everyone are going after DeSantis now, because they want that lane to themselves. And it's a crowded lane because it's Trump versus the field, and the field has that one lane. I think the left is concerned that the American people reject a majority of their policies by an 80-20 margin, and I think whoever the nominee is going to carry that America First policy torch, and it infuriates them because they don't like America. Obviously, the left thinks it's the cause of the world's problems, the root of all evil, and so they say that and try and sell that so that they can more easily change America into the dystopian, you know, planet that they think it can be by, you know, kowtowing to big special interests, but also allowing the government to be mother, father, grandmother, grandfather in all of our lives. That's what they want ultimately is you know, maintaining and gaining political power.
All right, Hogan, you've clearly proven
they're afraid of losing that.
You've clearly proven that we don't rehearse or talk ahead of these conversations, because if we did, I would never allow you to contradict me twice in one interview. But we've done so today, and despite that, I'll welcome you back again for another conversation.
Not only is your show great, but it is a good day when I can get you laughing on the air. It is such a great laugh.
Oh, brother. I love you. Honestly, you know what? You come from a sincere place. You're an honest guy. You're an honest broker. You're of goodwill. And in all sincerity, that's why we love you. That's why the audience loves hearing from you. And I know I do. Thank you, my friend, very much.
The Chris DeGaulle Show podcast.